His engine failed in a blizzard, so a canine alien girl pulled his sled on all fours. Asterisk. The blizzard howled like a living creature, screaming down the icy spine of the Luminon Mountains with a fury that made even steel groan. Jared Frost sat stiffly in the cockpit of his courier, Sled, jaw clenched, frost clinging to the inside of the windshield like creeping veins. Warning lights flickered in sickly red on the dash, and the engines beneath him sputtered one last time before falling. Silent, he swore under his breath. The silence that followed was worse than the storm. No vibration, no hum. Just the rising moan of the wind and the distant crack of shifting ice. The sled laden with a half-ton of precious medical cargo drifted to a standstill in the middle of a snow-choked pass with sheer cliffs on either side. Jared twisted the ignition again. Nothing. The diagnostic panel flared briefly, then blinked out, the power core gone. Fried. Dead. He punched the console, the impact reverberating through his gloved knuckles. He could fix a dozen things in the field, but not this. The temperature outside was plummeting. Already, ice crusted the sled's exterior, creeping inward like a siege. He activated the emergency beacon. The interface responded with a slow pulse functional. But in this storm, no one would reach him before the cold did. Perfect, he muttered, pulling his thermal coat tighter around his broad frame. Steam rose off his breath. With a grimace, he stepped out into the snow. It slapped him instantly, the wind clawing at his exposed face, the cold slicing through his gear with surgical precision. He staggered around to the rear, inspecting the sled. The cargo remained secure. Still viable for now. 50 miles to North Haven. He couldn't walk it. And dragging the sled himself? Suicide. He turned to scan the ridgeline, half hoping for rescue, half resigned to freezing alone. That's... When he saw it movement at first, he thought it was a trick of the snow, a shadow gliding just beyond vision. But it moved again, smooth, deliberate. Closer. A figure. She emerged from the storm like something from myth. Slender, upright, wrapped in tight, insulated fabric that clung to an athletic, curvaceous form. Her skin, or was it fur, was a radiant, silken blue that shimmered under the snowlight. Delicate ears twitched beneath her hood, and amber eyes locked onto his with disarming confidence. Not hostile, just amused. "You're in quite the situation," she said, her voice melodic and clear despite the wind. Jared blinked. "You're Lunari." Very observant human. Her smile was playful, yet edged with something feral. "Name's Kira, and you're either very brave or very foolish to be out here alone." "My sled's dead," he said flatly. "I have to get these supplies to North Haven. Lives depend on it." She tilted her head. "Then you'll need help." "I don't suppose you brought a spare engine?" "No," she said, stepping past him to inspect the sled herself. "But I have something better." Before he could ask, she dropped gracefully to all fours. Her limbs adjusted, her back arching, the motion fluid natural. A harness clicked out from her pack, and she gestured toward the tow cables. "You can't be serious." She looked over her shoulder, grinning with sharp teeth. "My people are. Stronger than we look. Attach the cables, courier. Or die here in the snow." Jared hesitated for only a moment, then moved. The cables snapped into place on the rings of her harness. The absurdity of the moment struck him. This elegant, blue-furred alien woman crouched like some otherworldly beast of burden, waiting for his command. And yet, she radiated power. Control. Kira leaned into the straps. The sled groaned, then shifted. And then impossibly, it moved. She pulled, each stride precise and sure despite the deepening drifts. Jared clambered back aboard, grabbing the steering yoke with disbelief still written on his face. Ahead of him, her muscles rippled beneath that silken fur. Alien, beautiful, terrifying. Try to keep up. Courier, she called back, her voice playful against the storm. This is just the beginning. And with that, they vanished into the white together. The wind screamed louder as they pushed deeper into the pass, the sled groaning under the strain, its treads occasionally skidding over patches of buried ice. Snow lashed against Jared's goggles, and the frost crept down his spine like a curse, but the sled kept moving. Or rather, she kept moving. Kira's form ahead was surreal. Her body moved with uncanny rhythm, her back arched low, limbs propelling them forward with a combination of strength and agility that defied the storm. Her breath came in visible plumes, steady but strained. Muscles beneath her blue fur flexed with each pull, and Jared found himself watching her more than the trail dot. It was insane. He was letting a Lunari woman, an alien, pull his sled through a blizzard on all fours, like some mythic beast of burden. And yet there was nothing submissive about her. Every movement screamed control, precision. She chose to do this. That was the difference. He adjusted the sled's stabilizers and leaned out, shouting over the howl of wind, "You need rest? We've been moving nearly an hour." "No," she called back without slowing. "Your supplies don't have time for rest." Still, he saw the flicker of strain in her gait, saw the snow clinging heavier to her fur. She wasn't invincible, just determined. After another quarter mile, the pass widened slightly enough for Jared to spot a rock overhang that could offer temporary shelter. He slammed the emergency brake and waved Kira down. 10 minutes, he said as she turned, panting softly. "You'll collapse before we make the next ridge if you don't catch your breath." Kira rose fluidly to her feet, snow cascading off her limbs. Her amber eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue. Instead, she slumped against the rock wall, her chest rising and falling in deep, controlled breaths. Jared knelt and unpacked a heat pack from the sled's emergency rations. He cracked it, shook it, and handed it to her. She took it silently, their fingers brushing. Her touch was warm, despite everything. "You're different than I expected," he said after a moment. She arched a brow. "Let me guess. You thought we were primitive savages who lived in caves and howled at moons?" "Something like that," he admitted, then smirked. "I didn't expect diplomatic sarcasm." Kira laughed. It was a melodic, breathy sound, strange and wild in the frozen silence. "I've read about your kind too, you know. Arrogant, loud, always carrying weapons in debt." 3 out of 4, he said, flexing the arm that carried his holstered sidearm. "Still working on the debt." She regarded him for a moment, then asked, "Why risk your life for cargo?" "Because that cargo is the only thing keeping the kids in North Haven from drowning in their lungs," he said, his tone going flat and serious. "Frost lungs spread faster than expected. They need synthesylent doses badly." Something changed in her expression. Respect, maybe? Or understanding. "You're not just some delivery boy," she murmured. Double quotes. "No, I used to be a soldier. Now I just try to save people who still can be." The silence between them turned heavier, but not uncomfortable. Then, suddenly, a sound soft, barely audible, but distinct, a low mechanical whine, high and distant, muffled by the storm. Kira's ears flicked forward. She stood in an instant, tense and alert. "You hear that?" Jared nodded, already checking the sled scanner. It was faint, distorted, but definitely not natural. Kira's eyes narrowed. "That's not wind, and it's not one of ours." He unholstered his pulse pistol. "You expecting company?" "No," she said quietly, stepping out from the overhang. "And that's what worries me." In the next instant, something streaked overhead, silent, dark, fast. A scout drone, not human, cutting through the snow like a ghost. It vanished over the ridge, but the implication was clear. "We've been spotted," Kira said grimly. "And if it's who I think it is, they'll want your supplies." Jared's hand tightened on the pistol grip. "And let's get moving." But Kira didn't immediately drop to all fours again. Instead, she stood before him, expression unreadable. "You trust me, Jared?" The question hit harder than expected. "I don't have much choice." "You do," she said. "You could wait. Here, hope rescue comes. Abandon the cargo. Let me vanish." He shook his head slowly. "Not happening." She nodded, then turned and dropped back to all fours. "Then stay close. This storm's about to get worse." As Jared reattached the cables and the sled lurched forward once more, he couldn't help the strange feelings settling in his gut. It wasn't fear. It wasn't even hope. It was something rarer, a sense that fate had just shifted, and this blue-furred alien, pulling his sled like a beast from myth, was going to drag him right into the heart of it. Asterisk. The storm grew teeth. Snow now fell in blinding sheets, driven sideways by wind that howled like a pack of hungry wolves. The mountain pass narrowed again, forcing the sled to veer dangerously close to the cliff's edge. Jared kept one hand tight on the yoke, the other gripping the pulse pistol holstered at his side, heart pounding with every groan of stressed metal underfoot. Kira pushed on. She hadn't spoken in over an hour, not since the drone. Her movements were more cautious now, her ears twitching, listening beneath the scream of the wind. Something hunted them. Jared felt it too. The silence wasn't just snow. It was the kind of stillness that followed a predator's breath. When the ridge finally widened into a basin, Kira slowed to a halt, panting hard, her sides heaving with each breath. Jared stepped off the sled and immediately sank ankle-deep in snow. He jogged to her side. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Her amber eyes scanned the tree-line dents, frost-coated stalks of something halfway between pine and crystal. "Tracks," she said finally, voice low. Jared crouched, brushing snow away until he saw them, three-toed, clawed, wide-set for stability on ice. Not Vexian, not human, something else. Kira's gaze narrowed. "Dravari." Jared stood slowly. "Mercs, hunters," she corrected. "They don't steal cargo. They take trophies." He swallowed hard, suddenly hyper-aware of how open the basin was. "They're tracking us? They're tracking me." Her tone held no fear, only bitter knowledge. Lunari fur fetches a high price in certain off-world markets, mine in particular. Blue with silver tips? Extremely rare. Jared felt a chill far worse than the storm passed through him. His eyes met hers. "You knew this when you helped me?" "Yes." He was silent for a beat. "Why?" Kira looked away. "Because you didn't hesitate to accept help from a creature my people would call a beast. And because those children in North Haven don't deserve to die because of my species' pride or yours." He stepped closer, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. She flinched, not from fear, but surprise. "You're not a beast," he said quietly. "And I'm not leaving you out here alone." Something flickered across her expression. Gratitude. Something more than a soft beep came from Jared's wrist unit. Proximity alert. Kira's ears snapped up. Too late. Out of the snow came three shadows tall, wide-shouldered figures in insulated armor. Their breath hissed in clouds as they stepped into view, weapons raised, visors glowing faintly with tracking sensors. Jared grabbed Kira and pulled her behind a fallen tree just as plasma fire scorched the air above them. "They want me alive," she growled. "You? Not so much." He peeked over the log and fired a quick shot. One of the attackers staggered, then crouched behind a rock. "Suggestions?" he asked. "There's an outpost," Kira said breathlessly. "A Lunari sanctuary, 3 miles east." Will they let me in? Probably not. Perfect. Jared muttered. Kira was already crawling toward the sled. We need to move. Fast. What about them? He nodded toward the advancing hunters. Kira's eyes narrowed. I'll distract them. Absolutely not. I'm faster alone. I said no. Jared's voice rose over the storm. We move together, or not at all. Kira stared at him a long moment, then nodded once. Then follow me. And don't stop for anything. She dropped to all fours again. Jared reattached the tow cables with trembling hands. The moment they were clipped in, she bolted, her muscles propelling the sled forward like it weighed nothing. Jared climbed aboard and grabbed the yoke. The Dravari fired again, plasma bolts sizzling into snow. One passed inches from Jared's ear, but they were moving, fast. The sled cut through the storm, carving a desperate path toward the eastern ridge. Jared risked a glance back and saw the hunters give chase, their own hover skis activating. But they were slower in the deep snow, less agile. Kira, it turned out, was terrifyingly fast when properly motivated. As they crested the ridge, the wind shifted and Jared saw it, a structure half hidden against the mountainside, glowing faintly with bioluminescent veins, natural stone laced with alien tech. The Lunari outpost. We're here. He shouted, barely able to hear himself. Kira didn't respond. Her limbs were shaking, her breath ragged, but she didn't slow down. The guards spotted them before they reached the gates, several blue-furred. Figures emerged from behind icicle-lined barriers, energy bows drawn, spears raised. They did not look pleased. Kira skidded to a stop, detaching herself with trembling fingers. Stay behind me, she said, her voice hoarse. One of the guards, a taller male with streaks of silver in his fur, stepped forward, ears flattened. Karana, he said coldly. You dare bring a human to our doorstep? Jared stepped forward, but Kira raised a hand to stop him. I have urgent business, she said. And he carries medicine that may save not just humans, but Lunari too. The guard growled. The matriarch will decide. Behind him, an older Lunari woman appeared. Her fur was white like freshly fallen snow, and she walked with the help of an ornate staff. Her eyes landed on Kira, then on Jared, and she did not flinch. We will listen, she said, voice firm. Bring them inside. As the gates creaked open and warmth spilled out into the frozen air, Jared realized they weren't just seeking shelter anymore. They were walking into a confrontation that could shift the fate of two civilizations. And Kira, the woman who had once pulled his sled on all fours, was about to stand before her people and ask them to embrace the very thing they'd been taught to fear. The warmth inside the Lunari outpost hit Jared like a wave, humid, fragrant, and almost disorienting after so long in the cold. He blinked, letting his goggles adjust to the soft bioluminescent glow that lit the stone corridors. The walls themselves pulsed faintly, like the inside of some massive, breathing creature. Veins of living crystal ran through the rock, humming with gentle blue light. Kira walked ahead of him, upright now, but her steps faltered. The exhaustion of pulling the sled, the weight of the ambush, the judgment in the stares of her people, it was all catching up to her. Jared moved up beside her, brushing her hand with his. You all right? He asked quietly. She gave a small nod, but her eyes flicked toward the gathering Lunari. Dozens now. Some peered from open doorways. Others stood in silent judgment along the main corridor. None welcomed her, and none spared more than a glare for the human walking at her side. They see me as a traitor, she murmured, and you as a virus. Good thing I brought medicine, Jared replied. A small smile ghosted across her lips, then vanished as the corridor opened into a wide, circular chamber carved into the heart of the mountain. 7 Lunari elders sat on stone thrones raised above the floor, each marked by elaborate fur patterns and ceremonial crystal staffs. Above them loomed a ceiling of transparent ice, the storm still howling beyond it, muffled but ever-present. The guard captain from before stepped forward. The outcast Kirana has returned. Kira's shoulders straightened, though Jared could feel the tension in her spine. She brings a human, the guard continued, voice hard, armed and uninvited. He is not here as a threat, Kira said clearly, stepping in front of Jared. He brings medicine, synthesylin, enough to stop the frost-lung outbreak before it crosses into our territory. There are rumors, one of the elders said, his fur streaked with charcoal black, that our southern scouts have seen signs of illness. That's no rumor, Jared cut in, stepping forward. I've seen the scans. It's spreading through the frozen valleys. It's already hit North Haven. Their children are dying. Your people could be next. There was a collective murmur, but one of disapproval, not agreement. And how convenient, Elder Wren snapped, rising slightly, that a human just happens to arrive during a plague, with weapons, with a former Lunari in tow who's long been obsessed with Terran culture. Kira's ears flicked back. Jared bristled. Before either could respond, a soft knock of a staff against stone silenced the chamber. Matriarch Nyla. She stood slowly. The room shifted with her, reverence rippling outward like a wave. Tradition has preserved us, she said, voice steady but laced with warning. But isolation will not save us from a sickness we do not understand. Her eyes, ancient and bright, turned toward Jared. Human, what is your name? Jared Frost, he answered, bowing his head slightly. Courier. Ex-Terran infantry. You fought alongside our outcast Kirana, yes? Yes, against Vexian scavengers. And now Dravari mercs. They're hunting her for her fur. They're following us here. The elder stiffened. Even Wren. There are rumors, the black-furred one repeated, less certain now. Jared stepped closer. It's not just about fur. They're using biotrackers, human tech, hybridized, someone supplying them. He reached into his coat and produced the broken scout drone he'd recovered after the ambush, scorch-marked and pulsing weakly. I want to get my cargo to North Haven, that's all. But if you think the hunters will stop with one Lunari pelt or one human camp, you're wrong. The chamber was silent. Then, and what would you have us do? Elder Wren growled. Beg. The Terran military to protect us? Invite more humans into our sanctuaries? No, Jared said calmly. Let us help each other. I've got a communication module in my sled. It's damaged, but with your biocircuitry, we can rig a signal booster. Contact the North Haven outpost. Warn them. Send coordinates. Maybe even request evac for your sick. And in return? Another elder asked. What does the human want? Jared glanced at Kira, then back at the council. Nothing, he said. This isn't a trade. It's survival. Matriarch Nyla gave a slow, approving nod. You speak with the bluntness of your kind, but not the greed. She turned to the side of the chamber. Terran, step forward. From the shadows emerged a younger Lunari male, his copper-marked, fur striking even among his kind. He carried a bundle of strange-looking tools and wires half organic, half mechanical. I've studied human tech, Terran said quickly. In secret, I can help. Jared's eyebrows lifted. Kira blinked. You have? Terran gave her a shy smile. You're not the only one who watches the stars. A growl came from Elder Wren, but Matriarch Nyla lifted her staff. The council. We'll debate later, she said. For now assist the human. Strengthen the signal. If his message brings help, we will reconsider our isolation. As the chamber slowly emptied, Kira took Jared's hand and squeezed it. Her fur was warm. Her grip stronger than it had any right to be. You did it, she whispered. He looked at her, dead serious. No, we did it. Behind them, Terran approached. with a grin, already unpacking tools. "Let's go fix your machine, human." As they exited the chamber together, Jared realized something that sent a jolt of adrenaline through his chest. This wasn't just a delivery anymore. He was part of something bigger now. A bridge between worlds, and the storm wasn't over yet. Not even close. Asterisk, the snowstorm outside had not relented. If anything, it raged harder now, flinging ice and wind against the sheer mountainside with blind fury. But inside the outpost's crystal-lined repair chamber, something new hummed, a subtle, flickering blue light, weaving between Lunari biocircuitry and Terran alloy. Jared crouched over his courier sled's communication module, the casing pried, open like a chest cavity. Wires pulsed with faint life. Terran crouched beside him, deftly connecting a shimmering tendril of Lunari-grown fiber to the human power relay. The two men worked in silence, the tension between them long since evaporated. They'd become something rare on Lumina a Lunari, and a human solving a problem together. Kira leaned against the curved wall nearby, arms crossed, watching them with unreadable eyes. She was quiet now, but her gaze never left Jared. Her blue fur, still damp from the storm, clung close to her toned frame. Her body had pulled a half-ton sled through lethal terrain, had fought off Vexians with her claws. And now she waited. "We've almost got it," Terran murmured, twisting a joint node until the resonance line lit up. "The biocircuitry is stabilizing your module's core. Give it power." Jared flicked the switch. The console whined, STUTERED, ... then lit up. A burst of static came from the onboard receiver, followed by a rhythmic pulse. Signal acquired. Jared exhaled. "We're online." He keyed the distress call, encrypted, direct, and tagged with coordinates for both North Haven and the nearby Terran military outpost. His fingers flew over the panel. Emergency protocol active. Frost lung outbreak confirmed. Courier Frost. Requesting immediate medevac and security support. Dravari hunters present. Possible coordinated trafficking operation. Lunari cooperation granted. Terran's ears perked up. Medevac. You're not just warning them. You're giving them an opening. "Damn right I am," Jared replied. "We need that cargo moving now, and if the hunters are closing in, we draw them off." Kira stepped forward. "How?" Jared tapped a map on his wrist display. A mountain pass snaked away from the outpost. Treacherous and slow, but far enough off the main transport lanes to be unpredictable. "We take the sled ourselves," he said. "Draw the heat. Lead the hunters off course while the humans land behind us. Once they've secured the outpost and the sick, we'll circle back." Kiara nodded slowly. "You're risking your life." "Again, so are you." Her gaze held his for a moment. "Then softly, we could die out there." "Then let's die making a difference." The room fell silent. Then Terran stood. "Not without me. You don't." Kira's ears twitched. "Terran, no. The Council didn't." "I don't care what the Council said," he cut in. "If these bastards are hunting Lunari for sport, I'm not staying behind while you walk into it. Besides," he unslung a long curved device from across his back. It looked like a rifle, if a rifle were grown from bone, crystal, and blackened alloy. "You'll need this." Jared took it in both hands, feeling the strange thrum of the weapon vibrate in his chest. It pulsed with bioelectric energy, cool and alive. "What the hell is this?" "I call it a pulse resonator," Terran said with a grin. "Human energy. Weapon meets Lunari resonance harmonics. Calibrated to scramble Dravari neural patterns." Kira's eyes widened. "This is illegal." "I know," Terran shrugged, "but so is being right." Matriarch Nyla arrived, just as the trio finished packing supplies onto the sled. Her white-furred form was stooped, but commanding, her cane clicking softly against the crystal floor. "You leave with my blessing," she said, "and the burden of what comes next." She looked at Kira. "Your mother would be proud, even if she never understood your fascination with humans." She turned to Jared. "Human, you do not act like the conquerors our myths describe." "I'm not here to conquer," he said quietly. "I just deliver things." This time, it happened to be the future. The matriarch smiled faintly, then stepped aside. The outpost gates groaned open. Wind poured in. Ice bit exposed skin. Jared turned to see Kira at the front of the sled again, tightening the tow cables around her harness. He stepped up beside her. "You don't have to," she silenced him with a look. "Yes, I do." She dropped to all fours again, powerful, willing, chosen. Taran took rear guard, weapons slung, sensors scanning. Jared climbed aboard and keyed the sled's modified nav system. The engine still didn't work, but Kira did. The sled lurched forward. As she pulled, graceful, unstoppable, they vanished into the blizzard once more. The wind screamed around them. Ice lashed against the sled's plating. But ahead, there was motion.shadows.tara, and single quotes S voice came through the comm. 3 hover sleds incoming. Multiple heat signatures. They found us. Jared raised the pulse resonator, the weapon humming. In his hands, Kira called back, her voice fierce and fearless. "Then we make our stand." Jared leaned into the wind, eyes burning. For her. For the Alliance. For the kids in North, Haven. Let the hunters come. This time, they were ready. The box canyon was too quiet. Snow swirled in ghostly eddies, curling through the air like breath held too long. On either side of the narrow ravine, jagged cliffs loomed, white with frost and laced with shadow. Jared crouched behind a sloped outcrop of rock, his gloved hands steady on the grip of the pulse resonator. The weapon hummed low against his chest, like a heartbeat before the sprint. Kira was already in position across the canyon, nestled on a frozen ledge with her Lunari energy bow drawn and ready. Her silhouette was a ghost against the snow lithe. Strong, utterly still. Jared's breath caught, not from fear or cold, but from the awe that came every time he looked at her like this. Not an exotic curiosity, not a beast of burden, a warrior. His partner. Between them, the cargo sled was camouflaged beneath netting and snow. The medical crates had been moved deeper into the canyon, tucked away behind a rise of natural stone. This wasn't just a final sprint to safety, it was a calculated stand. Beside Jared, Taran finished planting the last of the resonance mines, small disc-like pods pulsing with faint blue light. "They'll come through here," Taran said, panting, slightly, tracking Kira's biosignature. "And probably mine too," Jared nodded. "Then we make it count." In the distance, the whine of engines. Hover sleds. Jared tapped the cum bead in his ear. "Incoming. 3, maybe more." Kira's voice crackled back, low and calm. "See them." A moment later, the Javari emerged through the snow curtain-tall. Reptilian predators with shimmering scale armor and visors that flicked with data readouts. Their hover sleds were silent, except for the low hum of anti-grav fields. Each one carried 2 riders, heavily armed and alert. Jared waited. His gloved finger rested against the detonator. Just a few more feet. Now. He pressed the switch. Boom. Asterisk. The canyon shook as snow and ice collapsed in a controlled avalanche, burying the rear path. The Dravari scrambled, some thrown from their sleds. The lead sled swerved too late, crashing into the ridge wall, spilling its riders. Then everything ignited. Plasma fire lit the snow. Jared ducked and rolled behind the rock, returning fire. The pulse resonator cracked like thunder blue arcs dancing across the canyon. One Dravari took a full blast to the chest and crumpled, armor sparking and twitching dot across the ravine. Kira loosed arrow after arrow, her energy bow glowing with each draw. Her shot struck with surgical precision, pinning one of the attackers. Through the thigh, another through the shoulder. Screams echoed off stone. Taran moved between cover points, his own hybrid rifle barking pulses of violet light. He hit one clean in the side, but a second hunter returned fire with a sonic burst that caught Taran square in the ribs. The young Lunari flew backward and slammed into the canyon wall. Taran! Kira's voice cracked like a whip. I'm going, Jared shouted, already moving. He slid down the ridge, snow tearing past his legs as the Dravari turned to intercept. Jared fired one-handed, blowing out the knee of a closing hunter. Then he reached Taran groaning, blood seeping through his fur. Get back, Taran wheezed. Finish them. Not leaving you, Jared muttered. Hoisting him up, another plasma bolt slammed into the rock beside them, showering sparks. Jared dropped to a knee, aimed, and fired point-blank at the attacker. The resonator tore through the Dravaris' chest, dropping him instantly above them. The air suddenly roared. A sleek Terran military dropship burst through the clouds overhead, its undercarriage bristling with weapons. The colonial marines had arrived. A booming voice echoed through the canyon. This is Captain Harding. Drop your weapons or be neutralized. The remaining Dravari turned to flee, but the dropship's pulse cannons opened fire. In seconds, it was over. The hunters were dead or retreating. The snow was scorched, and steaming Jared collapsed behind a rock with Taran in his arms, heart pounding. Kira slid down the slope seconds later, landing beside them. Taran blinked at her, wincing. Did we win? She grinned through tears. Yeah, genius. We did. Marines moved in, medics rushing to stabilize Taran. Jared stood slowly, swaying with exhaustion. Harding approached, his dark eyes scanning the wreckage, and Kira with equal parts awe and wariness. You Frost? Yeah, Jared rasped. Harding nodded toward Kira. And this would be your diplomatic incident? She's the reason we're alive, Jared replied. She's also the reason your evac window stayed open. Harding studied him for a long moment. Then, Colonels, going to want to hear all of this. After we get you patched up and that medicine delivered. Kira moved to Jared's side, slipping her hand into his. He squeezed back without hesitation. I've got what I came for, Jared said quietly. The rest that's just politics. Harding cracked a smile. Get on board. As they boarded the shuttle, the medics lifted Taran into a stasis pod. Kira sat beside Jared, her fur damp, her eyes shimmering with exhaustion and pride. Your people came, she said softly, just like you said they would. And now they'll know about yours, Jared replied. Outside the shuttle's viewport, the storm finally began to break. Sunlight pierced the clouds, gleaming across snow and ice like gold. Below, a broken sled remained, a symbol of what had brought them together and what they had survived. Jared turned to Kira, brushing a strand of fur from her face. You never did collect on that favor? He murmured. She smiled. Oh, I did. You just haven't realized it yet. The shuttle rose into the sky, leaving behind the blood-stained snow, the shattered hunters, and carrying forward something far more. Important call on hope. And the beginning of a new future. Together. Asterisk.